All right, good evening and welcome to our presentation. You are here for Bully Awareness 101. My name is Donna McNeil. I'm the Activities Director here, and I'm the fun lady, but also my job here is to help create a climate and a culture that kids feel safe here and they want to come to school and it's fun and it's exciting. So tonight with my other partners in crime, we're going to be doing this workshop, Parent University, for you, and we want you to know that we're going to cover 3 different points of view: a teacher's point of view, a counselor's point of view, and an administrator's point of view, and let you know all the programs that we're doing to promote safety on our campus, and if bullying is happening or what the parameters are for bullying. So we're going to just educate you on all that tonight, okay? So I'm going to invite our lead counselor, Mrs. Brown, to come up. She can introduce herself and start the program.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. The first thing we want to make sure that we communicate to parents is that we did a survey last year, 7th graders, which is actually this year's 8th graders. And one thing that we really appreciated was the fact that 54% of the students said that they always feel safe at school. 42% said most of the time, and sometimes it was 4%, and there were no kids that, kids always feel safe at school to some degree.
Oh, come on in.
Come on in. Sign in, and you can grab a few goodies. Welcome.
Thank you for coming.
And so, even though this is a 7th grade survey, this is excellent because this is still this year's 8th graders. And we also were pleased to see who would the kids go to if they didn't feel safe. So in the event that they didn't feel safe, who would they go to on campus? 59% would go to their parents. And 57% would go to a counselor, 47% to a teacher, campus security and friend both were 40%, and vice principal and the VP was 39%. So the students know who to go to when they're not feeling safe on campus in the event that that happens. And we were saying that this is last year's survey and it's this year's 8th graders that felt this way last year when they got here. And they felt safe at school most of the time. 42%, 54% always felt safe, and sometimes they felt safe at school. It was 4%, but we had 0 that said that I never feel safe at school. And you're more than welcome to come in and join the group, grab some goodies. And I felt bullied in 6th grade. 50% said 6% said never, rarely, 24%, sometimes 15%. And we went through this, and what we did was we looked at some of the statistics for the students. Any student that indicated that they were having some problems feeling bullied or they've acted like a bully, we checked in with those students to make sure that they were okay and they had a plan of action, or that we dealt with whatever needed to be dealt with at that time. So this is still relevant to this year's 8th graders. The objectives of tonight is to increase your awareness of the dynamics behind bullying, because a lot of times we see one side of bullying, parents hear another side, and the children experience yet another. We want to increase awareness of how to support children in bullying situations, because we know it's going to happen, and we do want to give them skills to be independent, but also to know when to come to us and to be sure to tell us what's going on. We are going to highlight the bully prevention and intervention programs here at CAMS. So we want to make sure you understand what the resources are this year for students. And when we say anti-bullying, the other part of that is a positive climate. So we talk a lot about that. We want to use caution, because if we say, for example, no bullies, then we are talking about the kids who are bullies and they're feeling like they're not accepted. So we don't want to say we're saying it's a no bully zone. We're saying no bullying. That way, if we do have kids who are bullies, they're included in the program. So thank you. Did I do that on my own?
I did it.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So why is this important about using labels? Bully behavior versus being a bully. We have bully behavior, and then there's a bully. We don't want to get into labeling kids, because if we say you're a bully or he's a bully, she's a bully, then that's their label, and they kind of move into that. We don't want the self-fulfilling prophecy. Why is it important to stay away from labels? Again, it has an impact on the students. We don't want them to self-identify as a bully. We want it to say bully behavior. And Is it bullying? We're going to play a little game here. Our scenario is a bigger student keeps pushing a smaller student down on purpose. Is it bullying or is it a conflict? What do you guys think? Bullying. Bullying? Yes. Okay. Now, on the flip side, a lot of times a smaller student can harass a bigger student. Is that bullying?
Yes.
Yes. So even though there's the size factor that's opposite of what's up here, absolutely a smaller child can bully a bigger child. Students play keep away with Kenny's hat on the bus. He tells them to stop, but they don't listen. That's considered bullying. Terry and Jake yell at each other about cheating on a basketball game. Jake storms away angry. Goes home, tells his parents that Jake's bullying him and you know, he's cheating. And what is this? We consider it a peer conflict. A group of girls chase Tyler at lunch, trying to kiss him, even though he has told them he doesn't like it. That's considered bullying. And it is also a form of sexual harassment.
Yeah.
We do start to let kids know the difference between the different kinds of bullying that happens. Jared and Mike wrestle a lot. One day, Jared's arm gets hurt. It's considered horseplay. We tell the kids not to horseplay constantly. My favorite thing to say is, "You're not horses." They laugh, but they get it. Jessica and Brittany spread an untrue rumor about Claudia and tell the other girls not to talk to her. That's definitely bullying. It's a relationship aggression, or emotional aggression is another way of looking at that.
Can I add into that?
Please.
And part of bullying, if it's a one-time thing, that may not be considered bullying. But if it's repeated and it's happening a lot, that's considered bullying behavior. So
The same two people, the same one person
could be
with
the
multiple
same
people?
the same one person kind of doing the aggression. If it's a one-time thing, that could be a conflict, or it could be a conflict of some sort. Unless it's a horrible act, then that one time, that could be considered bullying. It just kind of depends. But it needs to be kind of severe and pervasive, and repeating is kind of the definition. And Nicole will talk a little bit more about that. But.
So bullying versus a normal peer conflict. Peer conflict basically involves a balance of power. We have equal age, equal size, equal status socially. All involved in the peer conflict have equal interest in the stake or the outcome of the situation. Horseplay, children are free to participate. They are likely to play alternate roles. Children tend to stay together after the play. So they have a little miscommunication or mishap because of horseplay. We do remind them, we do not want you to horseplay because this happens all the time. They're a little stronger, a little bigger, a little more sensitive, which is horseplay is a combination for not a good outcome. So we really encourage them to stay away from that. Bully behavior, it's a specific type of aggression. It's verbal, physical, or psychological. The behavior is intended to harm or disturb, carried out repeatedly over time. It is an imbalance of power, and it's an imbalance of power both physically, whether you have the bigger or the little, and an imbalance of power psychologically. You may have a child that is not, maybe they don't play name calling the way this child plays name calling, and then it happens repeatedly and over time, it can be considered bullying.
And those are the 4 things we look for to see if it's bully behavior. Those 4 things: aggression, intended to do harm, repeatedly and over time, and there's an imbalance of power.
And for an example, we had a student who felt like he was being stalked, and he used the word stalk, and he said, "I'm being stalked by so-and-so, and I'm sick of it, and I can't take it anymore." Got the kids together for conflict management, conflict mediation, kind of find out, investigate what's going on. And what ended up happening was because the child said he was being followed, he felt stalked. But the child who was doing the following, he was following the group and that particular child because they were playing a game, and he wanted to know how to play the game. And I said, well, in order for it to be bullying or stalking, it has to be evil intent is the word that I use with the kids. And finally they said, oh, well, I don't think he meant to be mean to me. He was just trying to figure out how to play the game. And so they got it. Yeah, it was creeping him out, but once we explained it, he got it. There's also observable bullying, physical acts, threats, intimidation, verbal abuse, taunting, and other things, of course, can come up with this age group with children that we may not have up here. Cyberbullying, we're all aware of that. It's been all over the media. We won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but to intentionally embarrass, humiliate, threaten, or intimidate an individual or a group, it's attempt to gain power and control. did you want to say anything about it?
I'll talk a little bit about it when
Okay.
we talk about my slides too, but yeah.
Okay, and a lot of times there's the bully target and there's also the provocative victim. The provocative victim is basically the child who will agitate but then say, you know, I think we call that maybe the wolf in sheep's clothing. Terms are used interchangeably in terms of bully and target and a provocative victim. Roughly 6% of students fall into this category. There are two definitions. Someone that's bullied then finds weaker students to bully and kick the dog behaviors. Okay? And then the target somehow provokes the attack and usually feels that they are the victim. We have to be careful with the provoke part, but still, they have a part a part in the problem, but then they're following that they're the only victim and the sole victim, and not a part of the problem. Relational aggression. It's common in girl-to-girl bullying. I don't know that I believe that it's only, I don't think it's girl-to-girl. I think the boys do it as well, just not as much. It damages social standing in the school. And we all know examples of how that can happen. Damages reputations, friendships and relationships, manipulating friends in the circle to treat another friend a certain way, withholding friendship, withholding kindness, leaving people out, excluding. That's a form of relational aggression. And of course, there's all other scenarios that we can give you, and I'm sure that you have your own as well. But there is that emotional part of relationships that sometimes can be very prevalent with certain students or with certain groups. And we try to identify who those groups are, who the individuals are, and work with them to disrupt that behavior. All right. Our activities doing
Nice.
campaign going on.
Yeah, so right now we're going to get into what we do here at CAMS to help educate our kids and let them know how to handle certain situations. Like I said, my job here is to create an environment where kids feel safe. They love to come to school, they want to learn, and are rewarded for their good behaviors. I'm a one that feels we're not, my belief is we're not reactionary. I want to be proactive. So I've only been here 3 years at Albione. I was at Smedberg beforehand. And so what I have found in the 18 years that I've done this job is that you put a standard out there and those kids will rise to that. You set the example and they will rise to that. So I'm really excited, and I've seen a huge positive difference on our campus this year. So our theme this year is tag your it, paying it forward. Kindness boomerang. You do something kind to somebody else and it will come back to you. Today I was talking to some kids and they were saying, I was telling them a quote, I said, kindness is the hardest thing to give away, because once you give it away, it always comes back. They're like, that's a kindness boomerang. I was like, you know, I was like, yes, that is. I go, it works. I go, and that's what we're seeing on our campus this year. It's very encouraging. So at the beginning of the year, we set it out there. We had a huge assembly. And we were like, you know, we want to be known as the kindest school in Elk Grove. You know, we're promoting this. You guys can do this. So we gave them all these things, you know, stand up against bullying, take a stand, respect myself and others. So these are the standards that we're putting up there. They're signing their name, and they got a dog tag. So when you came in, you saw
They
the little
love their
dog tags. Yes, so
They love
everything
that.
is all about positive reinforcement with dog tags. So that's where you get it, tag your it. You work hard, you're going to get a dog tag for your grades. You work hard and you're on the cross-country team, you're going to be rewarded and recognized because you're getting good grades and you're out there representing our school in a positive way. You're showing kind acts, your teachers are going to nominate you for Student of the Month. So all these positive things that they're striving for. So this is one of our campaigns. Go ahead. Here's all the cool things we're doing at our school. And the counselors do a great job going around to all the classrooms. What classes do you go through to do your
English.
English classes? So they go in and they talk, and it's nicer in a smaller group of kids instead of a mass assembly. So we present it and then we break it down to small assembly. Red Ribbon Week is when we talk about anti-drugs, anti-alcohol, and we hit on bullying again, anti-bullying. And this year our theme is our future is bright, no drugs inside. And it's like a neon theme kind of
How
thing.
about sex?
About sex?
Anti-sex.
That is,
Not anti-sex, but anti-having sex.
which That is a good talk. Well, we promote, no contact here, and we don't allow kids to hold hands, and, we're not really promoting dating. If you've known our dances and things like that, we don't say to come as a date. In middle school, we don't promote that. We promote come to school or come on in for bullying awareness. Go ahead, sign in, and
I actually need something else.
oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, no, that's okay. So, there's lots of ways we promote that, but they do talk about health and, in their science classes, right? So that is much on a smaller, a smaller group thing, and, they talk about in the health, understanding their bodies and things like that,
And
yeah.
actually, hand holding is now allowed. That's kind of new. But I'm old school. So what I've come to agree with is it is good for them to learn how to have positive contact and set a limit. So we can say, sure, you can hold hands, but that's as far as it. And if we see you going further, then it's a parent call or, all that. So I think that's healthy, positive touching. It is middle school, and we want to promote positive touching, but not inappropriate.
Inappropriate.
And my famous line is I say, if you want to get into all that, you need to go home and have your parents supervise you. And I tell them I'm absolutely 100% serious about it, even though they giggle.
Well, you have a big age group here. I mean, you have maybe 22 months difference. That's almost 2 years in ages of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even a little bit more, but I would say the range would be 22 months. There's a huge amount of maturation between,
Oh, yes.
Over the summer.
Over the summer.
you
Well, and there's different norms among families and things like that. And then, some kids say, well, my parents allow that. Well, that's fine, but this is at school. And these are the norms that we have here.
School
And,
behavior.
This is school appropriate behavior. So we do address that. But I have found that the school kids are very appropriate in what they do. I'm very encouraged compared to some schools I may attend and things like that. And teachers do hold kids accountable there. It's very encouraging of that. So, Be the Change Orange Day. Friday is Orange Day. It's where we're like, hey, take a stand, show that you want to be part of the kindness revolution, which I kind of think of that as a more positive, come on, be kind instead of like stand up against anti-bullying kind of thing. Like, because there's a lot of things that happen that aren't bullying, but they're not kind. So there's a lot of ways, again, to promote that kindness on campus. In our social science classes, they do teach a mandatory internet safety and cyberbullying. I know the 8th graders and 7th graders both have already gone through this. I think the 8th graders had to bring something home signing saying that they went through the cyberbullying. And I'll show you later on at the end where you can find that online when they went through it. But that is a law that every 8th grader, every 7th grader has to go through internet. Internet is 7th grade, and cyberbullying we address in 8th grade. So that is a mandated school board policy. And we are doing this year, 3rd period, our kindness advocacy lessons, our check-ins, kind of like, hey, remember we did this at the beginning of the year, and how are you doing with it? Just kind of bring back to their remembrance of it. And those are dog tags. So here's some ways that we're showing how we're kind in our community. Pennies for Pumpkins. October is Breast Cancer Awareness, so next week we're having a little fun competition for the kids. Kids Can, reaching out to our families in need, and Pennies for Patients, what we do in the spring to help raise money for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and leukemia. Bring a Veteran to School Day. One of my favorite things is to teach our kids respect for those who have served our country and to honor our families here. Blue Star Moms Outreach, and here, Unfollow Bullying Pledge. This is what we'll do in January, which will really hit cyberbullying and encourage kids to make decisions in the media. So that's my job. I get to handle big issues, but on a middle school level, and get them engaged and talking to it, and give them lots of options to make positive choices on campus. And again, it's a really fun job that I get to do here, so with your fabulous children. So I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Victor, and she doesn't always get to do the fun stuff like I do. She has to be the heavy sometimes when kids don't choose.
I've seen her in action.
Yeah, and she is fabulous. So I'm going to hand this over to her. And
She's wonderful.
yes.
Okay, thank you for coming.
So I'm Chandra Victor, one of the vice principals. There's actually 3 of us. There's myself, there's Mr. Woods, and then Mrs. Mason. So we have 3 full-time, which is nice, and 3 full-time counselors. So we kind of pair up together. So I get to talk about education code and board policy, which we have to follow. I can't just do whatever I want. If I think someone is bothering a student, I have to follow ed code, board policy, and make sure that it's fair to everyone. Everyone is afforded due process and everyone's rights are given to them. So sometimes that doesn't make everybody happy. So, okay. So there's an Ed Code 48900R. So if we're going to do anything that's related to a suspension or anything like that, it has to be related to Ed Code. And so 48900R says engaged in an act of bullying, included but not limited to, bullying committed by means of an electronic act as defined in subdivisions F and G of sections 32261, directed specifically toward a pupil or school personnel. So with this, there's more that kind of goes with this. Let me see if I have, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But basically section 32261 says that kids need to attend a school that is safe. So that's what's happening. They've also kind of changed things recently to include electronic acts because in the last 10 years cell phones are being used constantly by students. So this has kind of been amended. We've been trained on it. Mrs. Brown and I went to a training 1.5 years ago related to bullying. And so we have to follow this. And just because a student is bullying someone else doesn't mean that they would earn a suspension for that. So, okay. So some more of this is it has to be severe or pervasive physical or verbal act or conduct, including writing or electronic act that causes or can be reasonably predicted to have the effect of one or more on the following for a reasonable person, and there's all these definitions for a reasonable person. Fear of harm to person or property, experience a substantial physical or psychological detrimental effect, substantial interference with academic performance, and substantial interference with participation or benefit from school services, activities, or privileges. So if you kind of look at this, it has to be severe or pervasive for us to be able to suspend. And I think in the last 5 years, I've had one case where it's been very severe and pervasive. Most students, once you talk to them and you intervene, it usually gets taken care of. So, okay. So, the Board of Education believes that students have the right to a safe and healthy school environment. I don't think we're going to disagree with that. So they have 2 board policies that they have put into effect. Schools have to provide students with instruction in communication, conflict resolution, self-esteem. So that's what we do through advocacy lessons. So I'm the one that puts those together. Unfortunately, they're 5 minutes a week. They're very short. And so they do them in their 3rd period classes, but we also try to do stuff with Donna, what she's doing, so we try to get messages out other ways as well. Have bullying prevention and intervention consistent with board policy. So let's say we do think a student is bullying another student, counselors will intervene and kind of take over if necessary and work with students and establish clear rules for conduct. I don't think our rules here are very vague. I think our students know what our rules are. Choosing to follow them might be a little bit of a different story, but I don't think things are very fuzzy, and we're consistently reminding kids and constantly reminding them of the rules at our school.
And as we work with students individually, maybe they come into our office in pairs, they're having conflict, we do provide instruction on better communication, just sharpening their skills on tolerating or accepting differences and helping them with their self-esteem and development. So a lot of times we have the advocacy lessons, the all-school things that go on, and some kids get it, triple or quadruple dose because they're coming into the counselor and we're saying, okay, you right here, this person in front of me, this is where you need to work on building your skills.
So students are expected to notify staff if something is going on because we cannot be everywhere, so we expect kids to notify us. If they're uncomfortable doing that, parents will contact the school. Sometimes they'll tell their parent, they're like, don't say anything to anyone, then the parent calls, but they don't want you to know. And then that puts us in a weird position because we know, but we're not supposed to know, and then are we supposed to do something, or are we not supposed to, so it's can be an awkward situation. We have to interview all students that are involved and document it, and be as confidential as possible. Whenever we're talking to kids, we would never say, oh, well, so-and-so said that you were doing this. We don't say that. Kids may figure out who kind of said something, but we really try to keep it as confidential as possible. And the staff will make reasonable efforts. So that's what's expected. That's board policy. That's what's expected. And those things, we do our best to follow those. Okay. So discipline. Any student who engages in bullying on school premises or off campus in a manner that causes or is likely to cause a substantial disruption. So substantial is the key word here. If there's substantial disruption of a school activity or attendance, shall be subject to discipline, which may include suspension or expulsion. So a lot of times parents will read the handbook and it says, well, the student will be suspended or expelled. May. So that's really hard sometimes for parents to swallow, and we really try to work to kind of help them understand. But sending a kid home on a suspension may or may not solve the problem. For some kids, a suspension is a day off of school and a vacation. There's not someone there telling them, this is what you need to be doing, you're doing something wrong. They're probably better off here where they're going to hear it from their vice principal, their counselor, and other people on campus. So, and obviously, if it's a horrible act, we're going to do what we can to remove the student, but we are tied by this. Okay. And the other side to this is students have free speech. So a student could go on the internet, they could say something about me if they wanted to. That's not very nice, and they can be protected by free speech. So that's another piece that kind of layers everything that we also have to look into. Okay. So limitations. So as I've been saying, we want to make sure that everybody is taken care of, especially if there's a victim. We want to make sure that they're taken care of, and that they feel safe and comfortable coming to school. But we also are limited by, can you go back? Sorry. We're also limited by board policy and ed code, as I've been talking about. And also, we may be limited on jurisdiction over electronic communications. Remember back in the day, you used to call someone and say, oh, you're blah, 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 and then you hang up the phone. There was no record of that anywhere. No one knew unless your friend Sally was sitting next to you. Nobody knew what was happening. Now, there's an electronic record of everything, usually. But if things are happening outside of school, we may or may not have jurisdiction over that. It just depends on, is it something that's going to carry into school? Is it something that's disrupting activities? That's what we have to kind of look over. Because if I feel I need to search a student's phone and I don't have jurisdiction, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. And so I have to be very careful about that. And in most cases, we found that incidents that are reported usually get resolved and they don't happen again. And I don't know of any situations, maybe one in the last 2 years that I've been here, where it's been a student who they don't know the student at all. Most of the time, if something is going on, they know each other somehow. And so it's not just a random person coming up to another person they don't know. So a lot of the times, once you kind of call somebody on it, you talk to them about it and say, hey, your behavior is, you're kind of being a bully, your behaviors are, bully behaviors. They'll usually stop, which is the good thing. So because I think some kids, honestly, I don't think some kids realize the extent of what they're doing. And when you tell them, then I think they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Okay. So what can you do? Report incidents immediately. It's really hard when someone comes and says, well, a month ago this happened to me. It's really hard to get a statement out of a kid about what happened an hour ago, let alone what happened a month ago. So we need to know right away. Counselors and admin will determine how to proceed. Sometimes there's a gray area. We're not sure if it should start in counseling or start in admin first. We don't really know. So one of us will kind of take care of it. And if you have proof of it, bring it in. So if you can take snapshots of messages or anything like that and bring those in and show us printouts of things. We may not be able to, it depends if we have jurisdiction of them or not. Sometimes we can issue a consequence, but if we don't have jurisdiction, sometimes it might be more of just a conversation with the child and then also maybe contact with their parent. Okay, Nicole, you want to talk about this?
How much proof? I mean, reasonable doubt, I mean, how much proof do you really need?
Well,
I mean,
I just dealt with a situation where one student came in and said someone pushed him. So it's one person's word against another person's
when
word.
somebody else doesn't see it.
So, right, so that, there's not much I can do with that information. I can obviously talk to the student, but as far as issuing consequences go, so the more information, the better. And the more consistent the information. Like, if we talk to 4 students and they all have different stories, that's really hard to go by. So the more information, the better. Yeah. Do you have another question?
No, I just, I mean, how do you orchestrate what's important in what you can let slide? I mean, what's important to you guys, or what is, quote, serious to you guys, and what is, oh, well, they probably didn't mean it, or I would think a lot of times you don't have enough information to move forward on it, so you just let it go and maybe watch that person a little bit closer to see if, if anything's going on or not, until you feel that, that you can do something, or you're waiting for something.
And that could be the case, because if we didn't have enough information to begin with. And I always try to explain to parents, because sometimes parents will call, my child's being bullied, I want that other child removed from the school. We can't, it'd be great if I could do that, if that actually is going on, because, parents call, sometimes they say it's a bullying thing, come to find out it's not, they're having a conflict.
Sometimes you just have a kid that has a bad week, or a bad day or two, or there's trigger days where, let's say in split families, where one parent doesn't acknowledge a birthday, or something, it's like what I would call a trigger day, where the kid, if anything bad's going to happen, it's going to be a couple days before that, or a couple days after, maybe not on that day, but around that period, and then they kind of go back to normal, if they have a bad stuff.
So it kind of depends, and that's where we have to make a judgment call sometimes, like, is this a detention? Is this a phone call? Is this just a conversation? Is it a detention? Is it a shorter detention? Is it a longer detention? Is it a suspension? There's a lot that goes on, and we try very hard to get it right the first time. And it always doesn't make somebody happy, because we may not be able to suspend, the parent wants a suspension, we have to give a detention, but we have to follow ed code and go from there.
Do you give more credence when a child comes into you directly, as opposed to a parent calling hostilely because they feel,
If I get a call from a parent, I'm more apt to investigate and consider it a rumor until I have reason to call it something else. If a child comes in and reports something, I'm going to investigate it to see, okay, is this really something that's going on, or something close to it? Is it going on? And if it is it a counseling thing? Like, do these students need to just have a warning? This is inappropriate behavior. Here's your warning. We can solve it with just me, you, and the other child, and it's over after today. And that's if it's a minor offense or misunderstanding. Or if you continue with the behavior, then you're going to be sent to administration. You've had your warning, and you need to understand that we're serious about you changing your behavior. We try to give them an opportunity to self-correct. And if they're having a bad day, it was something, a minor infraction kind of thing, we can remind them, even when you're having a bad day, you can't be rude. But if we start to see a pattern, or if ever safety is an issue, obviously that goes to admin.
And student discipline history is another piece that plays into everything too, where, sometimes a student, there's multiple offenses of the same type. Then you start to kind of go, okay, maybe this is credible information. But really, when I look at it, I can't have one person's word against another person's word and do something about it. Because, that's really hard to do. And I try to, parents get upset with me and the admin about that. But I try to explain, well, let's flip this around. This is your child, and one person's accusing them of something, and I'm suspending your child or issuing them an hour detention with really no proof. It's
just
not
like
really
the police.
fair.
You can't do anything until there's an incident.
Yeah.
Once there's an incident, you can do something. You can skirt around it, you can try to avoid it, you can do some remedial things, you can watch the people. But until there's an issue, an actual provable issue, you just hold your breath.
And there may
Pretty
be periphery behavior, where there's little hints and indicators that there's inappropriate things going on. And that's when the counselors come into play. We bring the kids together, and we say, what has so-and-so done to offend you? What has, person B done to offend you? And then they listen to each other, and they figure out where the disconnect happened. And we say, well, what would you like this person to do differently? What are you willing to do differently? And we just kind of get them into the habit of thinking it through, correcting it, and not letting it continue to be a chronic behavior. Because if it becomes chronic behavior, then we have to step up the intervention to the next level, which is
That
administration.
makes it really dicey for you. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
dicey
harder
is a good
because,
word, yeah.
it does make it dicey because
Yeah.
we understand that the brain's going from the back to the front.
Yeah.
We all know that. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all watched
And we
those
wanna-
medical programs and the brain
Yeah.
programs, and we know the decision making is in the front,
Mhm.
and they don't get that till last. Too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
because
Till they're
at this age-
23
Yeah.
and
You're
boys.
right, right.
And we want to make everybody happy.
Right.
Like, if you
No.
call and you have a complaint about something, I want to make you happy with the outcome.
No, I don't
want-
want to be happy.
No,
I
but
want to be
some parents-
satisfied.
Right, but everybody, but I want to be able to make everybody feel good about what's going on, and sometimes that's really hard to do, and it's really hard to do, and you don't.
I think there's too much emphasis in today's culture about being made happy. I don't care about being happy because I provide my own happiness.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
expect anybody to provide my happiness, nor do I expect anybody
Right.
to do what I want them to do.
Yes.
Because we're all responsible for our own behavior.
Yes.
Love that.
People do what they want to do. And
Satisfied's
when
a
you
good word.
understand,
Yeah.
when you understand that people do what they want to do,
Yeah.
they're willing to take the consequence because they decided to take that action.
Yeah.
So not only are you not responsible for my
Yeah.
happiness, you're not responsible for making me happy.
I'll remember that.
We want her on, we want you on too, we got you on too.
Right? Because you're doing what's right for,
All the kids.
because you know more about the situation than
Yeah.
I do, and you have more experience.
Yeah.
You're the professional,
Yeah.
and I'm the parent.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh,
go
that's
into your
okay.
time. But I was just curious, I was
Yeah.
just curious,
Yeah.
because it's very different from my
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah.
I think you got an answer to your, the lady that.
Oh, okay.
So, in addition to wanting to satisfy everybody, we also want to make sure, in the process of making sure everybody is taken care of appropriately based on the situation, that the student is feeling taken care of, both at home and at school. And sometimes because there's a lot of students, or because we move quickly through the day, it's a really good idea to remember the 4A response. It's simple, it's kind of like a quick, brief, but it's really powerful. Affirm, ask, assess, and then act. So if your child comes home, or if a student comes to me and says they're feeling bullied, even if I know right away it's not a bully situation, I still want to affirm that the child feels upset, the child feels bullied. So I might say, you did the right thing telling me, or you did the right thing in making sure that your parents know. I understand why you were really scared in that situation. Wow, you felt bullied. I'm sorry that you felt bullied. Let's kind of talk about what happened. That's when asking questions. The second A comes in. Let's talk about what happened. When did it happen? Who was involved? Has it happened before? So we gather a history. This allows both the educator and the parent to get information that you might not get if you just listen to the fact that the child is upset. We want lots of additional information so that we have something to use to do a sound intervention. You assess safety. After you get all those questions answered, and you may even hear something that kind of like, oh my gosh, but you still hear the child out, because even though you're upset, keep that in for a second so that you can get the rest of the information you need, and then you look at the big picture and say, is this about safety? Or is this about a conflict that needs to be, resolved between two friends? Ask the child, how are you feeling? Are you feeling safe? Are you feeling like you're in danger? What do you need from mom and dad? Or what do you need from me to feel better? What do you need? What can the school do to help you feel better? And sometimes they don't know. So then you could offer, would this help? Would that help? You want to act. So we coach the children. We coach the children to act on the information that they have now put out there. We say, well, okay, you're reporting it, but now we need to take an action. And as a counselor, I'm going to say, let's brainstorm what some of those actions can be. We have option A, option B, and I might say, we could sit down with the other child, together, or that child can get a warning, or you could approach them the next time you see them in class or in the cafeteria. And again, it all kind of hinges on the assessment. and the questions that I received. But again, I want to encourage the students to problem solve, to take action, not just report it and cry, but then now what are we going to do to resolve so that it doesn't keep happening?
Okay, so what we do is if we get information about a situation, we determine if it's admin or counselor. And sometimes it's clear cut and sometimes it's not. We're not really sure. We do a conference with the student to gather information, and then we determine what's the next best steps. If it turns out it maybe is just a pure conflict, we might have the students meet. Or they might do a conflict mediation, and they would do those with an adult present. The counselors are really good at mediations. I try not to do mediations. I don't think it's my strong point because I want to say everybody just needs to get along. That's probably why I'm the vice principal. The counselors, they kind of are better able to kind of draw at things, and they're just much better at it than I am. And then discipline consequences may be issued. It just kind of depends on the situation. So, you know, at the least, we try to keep parents kind of involved in what's going on so that they're aware of what's happening. So, okay.
So in your packet you got tonight, we've listed some websites, some prevention websites that might be helpful to you. I just want to click on one of them right here, the EGUSD student-led call to action, because I want to show you where a lot of support can come for you, for your student, and for us teachers. They offer a lot of support to us. So this is our third year with hashtag Unfollow Bullying, which we in the Elk Grove Unified School District, we started this. This was named by high school kids. It's pretty exciting at Valley High School. They're the ones that came up with this, and I think it won some awards for the name and what they've done in the district. But if you look on here, there is where it says toolkit. See right there? Mm-hmm. There's a student, staff, and parent. So there's some tools on there that can support you as a parent. Let me show you. A while ago we talked about the cyberbullying education curriculum. If you look right there, it has middle school. This is the curriculum that we go through. The social science teachers help. So you can see that cyberbullying, crossing the line, and cyberbullying, be upstanding. So that is where the district has done well in equipping us teachers. I know about cyberbullying, but this is some great ways to relate to middle school. It has actually, if you go in there, there's a great video of an actual kid that went through cyberbullying. She was the one that bullied somebody else. And then there's one that she got cyberbullied, and it's her true story. And the kids watch that, and it's really good for them to see this is what happened. Once you put it out there, you think before you click, because it's out there forever. And she says, it ruined my life as a high schooler. So it's a really good curriculum, and the social science teachers do a great job with that. Again, there's some parent support there that can help you. 5 things parents can do. So just go through here and read it, and it'll help you equip. I've done the 4As with my child. She's in 4th grade, and it works. We okay, when you go to school tomorrow, let's have a plan if this happens. What are you going to do? And that's what we're doing, equipping our kids, because I know I want to fix everything, and I just want to make it perfect for my child and for these children here. But that's not going to happen. They need to know how to deal with these situations. And so these are some great tools to equip you as parents to help your child to deal with that. And so I really like this website. And then lastly, I'm super excited because we do have some campus spotlight. Let me show you what we've done in the past, and we'll be doing this again in January. Where is it here? You see this on here? I just saw it. There it is. Oh, that's not it. I just clicked on it this morning and it was there. Well, if you go on here, you see this? They took it
Sometimes
down.
it's updated.
I know, but we were just on here. Campus. Is it in February? Let's see if that's it. Yes, there we are. CAM students step up to stop bullying. So every January, February, we do a pledge with kids. We come back from winter break and we're like, okay, let's start the year. And that's when we do our focus on cyberbullying. Like this month, we're anti-drugs, anti-alcohol. really cyberbullying is this month, but there's so many things to do this month. I can't you can't be anti everything in 1 month. You know, they just don't get it. Let's spread it around a little bit. So this is really a really cool focus on our school. That's our stage out there, and this is the pledge that we've done. Unfollowing bullying pledge. So you can just go there and see what we've done in the past. And again, this is just to bring awareness, and like we have them to pledge to be aware, like drugs are harmful. We tell them the harms and what they do if they're offered drugs and things like that. So we want to equip them with the tools if they're offered, you know, the opportunity to cyberbully. Think about it. These are the outcomes that's going to happen. So we are giving the tools to help them to think before they click. So you can see some good pictures of them pledging. And this year when they pledge, guess what they're going to get? A dog tag that says, you know, I pledged to hashtag unfollow bullying. So that's just one of the websites that we wanted to show. There's many more that can support you as a parent. There's some parent advocacy coalition. But again, I just wanted to do that because that's what our school district is being proactive in equipping us as teachers, our students, and parents with that. So any other websites you want to touch on there? So
No, I think
the biggest thing that the kids have come home and talked about is that there's consequences. If you do it, there's consequences. And they're well aware of the consequences, and it's very interesting to hear them. You know,
That's good.
Yeah.
They're listening.
yeah.
They are, because they understand consequences.
Well, and I think that the consistency that administration offers, our teachers offer, it helps, gives a clear message to kids. I know if I make these choices, there are these good consequences. And if I make these choices, they're not so good consequences. So they know it's very clear cut. You're going to be rewarded for your good things. You know, the kindness boomerang will come back, or if you just put it out there and it's not kind, it's going to come back to you. There are some consequences. So I appreciate, that's why I work here. So I appreciate there is very clear cut, you know, accountability for the kids.
Well, I can tell you, I've talked to a wide range of students on campus, and I don't know any of their backstories or anything. And I know almost without, I can't think of one that would not say to me, oh, if something happens, so-and-so will take care of it. They feel that somebody has their back. One of you guys has their back. And I think, you know, that is such a commendable thing, that it isn't just, it isn't just their parents, but they feel confident, and I feel confident that if there or when there is a situation, the right outcome, that I will be agreeable to your decisions, because you have more of a story than I do. But the kids from the 7th through the 8th graders, because the kids are 7th and 8th graders, but every one of them, when you talk to them, and they talk, you know, nonstop, would say, "Oh, you guys, there's someone here that would take care of it."
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah,
they know their
absolutely.
counselors' names, and they know they'll cite teachers that they know that will take care for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's very commendable, especially since the 7th graders have only been here 8 weeks.
Yeah, and we work hard at that.
So that is
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
that's the thing that has been a really clear message to me. And you don't ever have to worry about being a parent being happy with you again.